Welcome to the Hair, Babes and Business podcast. My name is Jessica Marie and I am an online educator and hair, beauty and business coach. I worked behind the chair for 14 years and successfully fully booked out 2 of my own hair salons before taking on this role. I have learned the many intricacies of hairdressing and running a spa or salon business. Through Hair, Babes and Business, I, alongside other industry experts, am sharing valuable knowledge to help you grow your business and fast track your success. I am so grateful that you have found our community and have decided to become a part of it. I can't wait to work with you and to move progressively towards a new era in the hair and beauty world. Thank you for being here today. Now let's begin. Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of the Hair Babes and Business podcast. My name is Jess and I am your host, and today I'm speaking with the phenomenal Tanika, owner of the Eco Hair Room here in Adelaide. Tanika shares with us the most incredibly inspiring story of how she not only opened her business in the midst of COVID, but took her humble home salon and turned it into a 4-basin, 10-station commercial space while raising 2 children and giving birth to a 3rd, getting married and doing all of this in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and global financial crisis. What an absolute powerhouse. In our interview, Tanika talks about her salon, which is plant-based, sustainable, low-tox, and uses locally made products, and how creating such a unique and special space has attracted clients from all over the state. Tanika and I also explore a variety of topics, including breaking the stigma that comes along with shopping centre salons, apprenticeship culture, now versus then, and what she's doing to break the toxic apprenticeship cycle, finding balance between being the boss and having a relationship with your staff, her unique approach to content creation and how it's helping her to build her clientele, how she's continued to grow and thrive through the financial crisis, and so much more. Plus, for any Adelaide babes listening, she's also sharing an extremely exciting job opportunity. Whether you're looking to begin your hairdressing career, you are a very qualified senior stylist, you are looking at starting your own salon, or you've owned your own salon for a really long time, I really believe that everyone's going to get some really good insight and advice out of today's episode. So, whether you're going on your hot girl walk, listening in the car, or curled up on the couch with a coffee, get ready to dive right into today's episode with Tanika. All right, guys, welcome to this week's very special guest episode of the Hair Babes and Business podcast. Today, I'm joined by Tanika, owner of Eco Hair Room. Tanika, do you want to tell me about who you are, what your business is, and what you're doing in the industry at the moment?
So like Jess said, I'm Tanika and I'm the owner of Eco Hair Room. So I started the business in August 2020, like smack bang at what we thought was the middle of the pandemic, but really it was the beginning of it. And I wanted to create a difference in the hairdressing industry. Like I created my salon as an eco-sustainable salon. So we use only South Australian products. So we use Davro. The colour range, we first started with Lumina, a beautiful colour range, can't fault it, but just not a lot of education support-wise. So I ended up changing to an Australian colour range. But yeah, then we are part of a team called Sustainable Salons. So we actually recycle 90% of our salon waste. And there are so many sustainable salons in Australia. I wish I had like the figures written down, but yeah, I'm sure like a quick little Google, Instagram search can tell you. So yeah, we recycle 90% of our salon waste, and it works out to be about $3 from each service that gets added, like, you know, as a total at the end of the week. And this is something I pay for as myself as a business. So yeah, $3 of every client actually goes towards Oz Harvest. So by getting your hair done in a sustainable salon, you're actually helping the less fortunate people. So I'm sure we're aware of what Oz Harvest do. They collect all the wonky bananas or the not so pretty apples, and they help feed homeless people, which is really lovely. But yeah, I think just being that sustainable lifestyle, people are really looking more into that now and how they can help, because obviously it's everywhere. It's in cafes, restaurants, pretty much everywhere. My lovely clients, she actually works in the medical field, and they've actually got like a sustainable recycling program they use in theatre as well now. So they're minimizing their waste going into landfill, which is amazing. So yeah, sustainable salons is a really powerful movement to be part of. But all of these little things just like made Eco Hair Room what it is today. And yeah.
I absolutely love that. And before we started recording today, you were also telling me about how you have a vegan salon. Could you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so me being a vegan, I've been I refer to myself as plant-based because I think the term vegan can be a bit meh. So yeah, I only eat a plant-based diet, so does my entire family. And so what I wanted to create a safe space for myself and for like-minded people like myself. So working in other big chain salons, I would always be looking at ingredients or, the warning labels, and I'd be like, oh no, I don't want to use this because I wouldn't want to use it on myself. I don't want to use it on my clients at the end of the day. So yeah, making a safe space so that people who would come into my salon knew that they weren't harming the earth or harming animals, and not harming their health and their immune system as well, because going back 17 years ago, like colors were really harsh. They stank, and you'd walk into the salon and you could just smell all those toxic fumes. Whereas my first space that I ever had, it was quite small, and people would walk in and be like, oh, it smells lovely in here. And that's another part as well. Like, I don't use harsh chemicals for like my cleaning. I use like my natural based products. A lot of them I actually do make myself with my essential oil products as well. So the salon itself is very low tox, not no tox, but low tox. So yeah, my motto that I originally came up with is like, be kind to your hair, be kind to the earth. So, and that will always stick.
I love that. That's such a beautiful motto. And I think, like you said, like people are searching for those options now. And like you said, originally, like hair salons were these like stinky places that were just harsh chemicals and lots of smells and lots of fumes and all that sort of stuff. So to be able to create that space for someone, I'm sure that would be a massive draw card for a lot of people.
Yeah. Obviously, like I'm in Aldinga, I was kind of just expecting to be getting local people, but advertising on the Sustainable Salon website, so people will travel for a sustainable salon if it means that they're not going to be impacting the earth. I've also like posted on Facebook groups, like vegans of Adelaide, vegans of the Fleurieu Peninsula. When I first opened, I was always curious as to where new clients especially would find me. And I was like, oh, how did you hear about us? And they're like, oh, on the Vegans of Adelaide page, like someone posted, and it was actually my husband a lot of the time. He would post about it for me because he's like, someone would be like, after a hairdresser, and he'd be like, my wife and I have just opened a salon, and we got a lot of business from that. So that was really lovely. One of my most long-term clients since opening, she actually travels from Largs Bay to come get her hair done. So like across town. So when I hear like friends of friends that maybe live like Morphett Vale, Ranella, Woodcroft way, like a bit further north, they're like, oh no, that's too far. And I'm like, is it?
That is so cool. I love that people travel for that experience.
Yeah. And then like I think I've got like a couple that come from Kangaroo Island as well. So like they have to cross water to get to me, which is really incredible. So but it's just the experience that they know that they're going to get as well. And like we spoke about at the beginning, that shopping centre stigmatism that I've kind of been put into a box. I'm trying to break that out now. Like just because we're in a shopping centre doesn't mean you're going to get a quick walk-in haircut. It is still an appointment-based salon. You might get lucky and you could rock up and someone would be free. And that's where I would love to have an extra one or two team members come on board to take those walk-ins, because I'm a person, I hate saying no. If I can cram it, I'll try my best. But at the moment, that's another story. Yeah, it's the experience that people get, like they get their hair washed. We've got beautiful massage lounge chairs. They get a nice hot towel, which we infuse with an essential oil at the beginning of the day. It's the head massage. It's the personalized coffee and the biscuits, and just the attention to detail that I give to my clients, and that what my future staff are also giving to my clients as well, that makes us unique for a shopping centre hairdresser.
I absolutely love that. And as a local girly myself, I have walked past your salon multiple times and I'm obsessed. Like, I'm always like, that's where I want my hair done. It's so beautiful.
Well, you should come and get your hair done.
I will. I'm going to take you up on that. But no, you've created a really, really beautiful space. And I think, yeah, talking about, as we were speaking about earlier, like breaking that stigma that, it is just an in and out rush experience. Like, you really have created this beautiful
wholesome, peaceful, luxe experience there. And I just love that. And I think it's cool that we are changing people's mindset around that. And we're not quite 100% there yet, but we're definitely getting there to creating, like, making people realize that, you know, you can have that experience within a shopping center. Speaking about that, could you kind of share your journey as to how you started and like what sort of you've gone through to get to this point where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. So I started in a small country salon as a little tea and tidy down in Strathalbyn a couple of days a week, which was really interesting. They had offered me an apprenticeship, but I didn't want to be a country hairdresser because our clientele was like little old ladies, and I was like, that's not where I want to be. I then just went into hospitality and I was a shift manager, which was really cool because I was like, yes, I was the one bossing people around. And then I did want to go back into hairdressing, and I went for a salon. And I did my research. I went for 2 salons that were advertising, and one I was like, nope, this is where I want to be. They were an award-winning salon. They won a lot of color trophies, and they did a lot of editorial work as well, which was like, that's where I want to be. That was my goal as a hairdresser back when I first started. I wanted to be doing like fun stuff. I wanted to do competitions, and I got in there, and shortly after, I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. Like, the girls I worked with were beautiful, but there was just one lady in particular who made my life living hell. She would yell at me. She would scream at me. She would tell me I was her little slave. If I wasn't available to wash her hair, she would like pull me away from another senior hairdresser. One day there was this big incident that did happen, and it rattled me because it wasn't even me that did it. I just got blamed because I was the new girl. And she actually told me in front of the salon, she's like, you will never make it in the hairdressing industry. And I would love to just shove it in her face right now. After that incident, I went to my boss and I was like, I can't work around her. I really love this industry, but if I stay here, I'm going to end up hating it. And so she's like, well, why don't you take some annual leave and, you know, clear your head and maybe come back. And in that time, I went to another salon. And then I just told him, like, I'm not coming back. And I left and I went and did my apprenticeship somewhere else. And he was a really harsh but firm boss. And I look back now and I'm like, that's still not okay. But I think because like back when we first started, you got yelled at, you got screamed, you got punished. Whereas like now I think we have to like tiptoe around what we say to people and how we say it, because back then it didn't matter. And this is only like, 17, 15 years ago, but now so much has changed. And moving forward to where I am now, and I've now trained one junior from first year apprentice, and now she's qualified. I've now taken on I've got another apprentice, and I've got my 3rd apprentice now. So I've got 2 apprentices under me. And if I have something I need to correct them on, I quietly pull them out the back and be like, hey, that's not okay. A few times I have wanted to yell and scream at them, but I'm like, no, remember how that made you feel, and it's not okay. Like, I would never want to make someone that I'm training feel the way that I felt back then. So I'm really trying to break that stigmatism. But like you have to be so careful what you say, how you say it these days. And it's just, I think if the apprentices these days had to go through what you and I went through, we wouldn't have apprentices at all.
Yeah, it's that time of the industry where you and I were going through our apprenticeships was like brutal. And I look at it now and I'm like, it was not okay. And I'm glad that we are like breaking away from that. We're not doing it anymore. But yeah, it's completely different now. And it's hard because the people who are training the people now in such a different environment are the people who went through that training. So we are having to do the work to break those cycles. And that's not always easy.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And I think, I mean, I remember getting into the industry and being like, oh, I'm going to be like doing cuts. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this. My first 6 months, I don't think I even touched any hair. My seniors would send me with their credit cards to go do their grocery shopping. I remember once actually having to take their car to get serviced. I was getting dry cleaning. I was like more like a personal assistant. I was cleaning. The salon I was at, because it was a high-end salon, we had a full-time receptionist. So I never had to answer phones or make bookings or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think I even touched hair for about 6 months. And I was like, if I was a personal assistant, I'd be getting paid a lot more than this. One thing then, one of my friends, she had left school a lot earlier than me. So I actually finished school and then I went into the apprenticeship. And I reached out to my girlfriend. She was like in her third, fourth year, I think, as I was just starting. And I was like, how did you do this? This is really hard. Like, people get in there and think like, yeah, I'm going to be doing hair. I'm going to be having fun and creating and doing all these beautiful things. And then we get there and we're cleaning, we're scrubbing and doing all the things that we didn't really think were going to be a hairdressing apprenticeship. And then she's like, it is hard. And those first 6 months is, that's what you're doing. And I was like, okay. And then it started to get into like the washing of the hair and blow drying and maybe putting on a toner once in a blue moon. And then even then at that first salon, I was really still struggling. And then all that stuff happened. I left, I went somewhere else and it was better, but it was still not great. And I once again reached out to her and she's like, right, this is my other piece of advice I should have told you before. Take things professional, don't take them personal. And I was like, okay. And that shifted my mindset that like, hey, they're not being complete jerks. They're actually just trying to make us a better hairdresser. And so that is my motto then that I give to my juniors now. If I have something I need to say to them, and I was like, right, take this professionally, not personally. And then it does help. And even last week, I had to call my junior up and I said a couple of things and I was like, this is professional, not personal. Nothing about you as a person. This is about you as a worker. And she's like, no, that's fine. And I was like, cool. But for me, now as a business owner and training up young juniors, it's really hard for me to put on my big girl pants and confront people. It's really, really hard. I have had to let people go and that's not easy to do either. And because I hate being mean because I know how it feels to like be in that other position. So it's really, really hard trying to break the stigma, be the boss, be the friend at work. You don't want to be the boss that they go home and bitch about to their family, friends like I used to. You want to be like, you want them to go home and be like, oh, hey, what'd you do at work today? It's like, oh, Tanika let me do this and it was so much fun. You don't want to be like, oh, Tanika made me scrub the toilet for 3 hours. I want to give my juniors a fun work environment. And I think if you were to look at our social media, you would find that we're fun. Like, yes, we take our jobs seriously, but we also try and have fun with our clients as well. And those clients that keep coming back because they feel comfortable, it's not just like a straightforward classic hair experience. Yes, we're creating beautiful hair, but we're also having fun and we're building nice relationships with our clients. And when I first started the business, I was like, all my friends are going to come and get their hair done. And I think only a handful didn't. I got quite upset by that. And I was like looking through social media and I'm like, what can I do to get my friends to support me more? And then I read something and it was like, your clients will become your friends before your friends become your clients. And I was like, yes, that's so true. And like my friends would be like, oh, I'll come get my hair done. And like, oh, we don't catch up anymore. And I'm like, well, you're here getting your hair done. This is a catch up, but it's not. And I have to say I have lost a few of my friendships because of I took it for granted. And so I am sorry for that. And I have apologized to quite a few people that I took their friendship for granted just by coming and getting their hair done. But now I've created friends from my clients and we catch up. We go out for coffee, we go out for drinks and stuff like that. So it's a whole another level of relationship now. But yeah.
I feel like you just said so many validating things for so many business owners just then. There's like so many things I want to go back and touch on because
okay, go.
that was so helpful. So many things you said. One thing I just want to touch on, you talking about like trying to find that balance of like being the boss and putting the rules in place and having the boundaries, but also not wanting to be that mean person. And I feel like that's something that so many hairdressers struggle with because we are these really like kind, giving, caring, loving people. And that is a really fine balance to find. And I think that is a really tricky thing. Do you have any tips to anyone listening about how to find that balance?
So this is very firsthand experience. So my first apprentice that I took on, we actually went to high school together. She was a couple of years below me. And before I opened my salon, she was always a client of mine. And then she'd actually started her hairdressing apprenticeship many, many years ago. And then she'd had her children and she's like, oh, I wouldn't mind getting back into it. And I was like, oh, well, like, I'll see how this goes. And if it works out, maybe you can come work for me. And I was then getting busy and I was like, hey, like, are you still serious? And she's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, okay, cool. And I laid down the rules from the very beginning, being a friend and then being her boss. I was like, you need to know that anything I do say is to make you a better hairdresser. I'm not trying to be a bitch. This is my business. This is how I support my family. I have built this from nothing to where I am now. And she's like, yep, yep, yep. And I was like, and we can be friends, but here I am your boss. And anything I say here, you just need to agree with it. We've caught up outside of the salon and we try not to bring work into our outside relationship, like our friendship outside. And that friendship still stands. She's still working for me. Yes, we've had a few little moments there, but we've nutted them out. And I'm so thankful that she's stuck by me, like from day one to I don't even know where we are now, but like she's been there from the very beginning and I am thankful for it. And yeah, like some days she makes me want to rip my hair out, but I think that just comes with being a business owner as well. She's got her own stuff going on in her life, but I'm also trying to run a business as well. So some days I'm like, let's just not bring that into here. But at the end of the day, we do what we do. She's been working for me now for almost full 5 years now, and it's still going really well. So it's hard, but I think you can establish and doing things with your team outside of work as well to break that work cycle. We just had a little retreat on the weekend. We all got together on the Friday night. We had pizza. And then on the Saturday, we did a yoga meditation session all together. And then we did dinner. And then we all had like a cocktail we had to make. It was kind of that trend that you see on TikTok where people make a cocktail in the career that they're in, but like, hey, we're all hairdressers. So it was a career that you'd be if you weren't a hairdresser. And we had to make a cocktail based upon that. And it was just a really like fun weekend where we all like hung out and like did little team activities and we rarely spoke about work, which was really good because now we've bonded and not in a work way. So I think doing things like that outside of work definitely help your team.
I love that so much. And I think that is so important. And like, you have to have that boundary between like friendship and professionalism. But I think it is so important. Like, I think that's the side of it a lot of people miss is actually having that friendship as well. And I think that's something that you guys do really, really well. I did want to say, I watched your video, your reel about the cocktail making, and I absolutely love that. Your social media is exceptional, and I will link all of your socials so that people can come find you guys online as well. Can you touch on that a little bit? Because I know that that's something that a lot of people really struggle with is a social media side, and your social media is so fun and so inviting. Do you have any tips?
I actually can't take credit for my social media. One of my beautiful workers, her name's Jess actually as well. She is like a social media guru. Like, I'll have an idea and she'll be like, yep, I'm on it. I will literally just like sit there for a couple of hours, like scrolling through reels, and then I'll send them to her like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. So, and we just then put our own little spin on it as well. But yeah, I don't do a lot of my social media. I don't have time for that.
I completely understand. And I think so many people in this industry understand that too. Like, it's a lot of pressure to create all that and have the time to do it. But I think, and that's just something I do want to say, and I think that's something you guys do so well, is like, it is just you guys. Like, that is who you are. That's who your team is. That's what you do. And I think that's where it does like resonate so well with the clientele, is because they're like, this is exactly who you are. You're not like putting on this show. It's like, this is who you are. This is what we can expect. And I just think you guys do that really well.
Yeah. I think as well, like, you can probably agree with me that, like, when we first started, we didn't have social media. We had Facebook, but we used it, but we didn't use it. Instagram sort of was just starting out, but people were taking pictures of their outfits, their food, or a rainbow in the sky, and now to like, it's not enough to just be a hairdresser. We have to be a content creator, and then adding the business element as well. Like, so I'm a hairdresser. I'm a mum. I'm a wife. I have to do social media. I have to do payrolls. I have to do my bookkeeping, my accounts and stuff like that. all while trying to like run a household as well with 3 young children. And I do try and limit my social media times. Like if I'm not at work, I try not. If I'm at home, I try not to be on social media, like doing work things. I generally do that on a lunch break or once the kids have gone to bed at nighttime. But it's so hard to do social media when we weren't raised to have it.
And it is a full-time, like social media is a full-time job. And it's like we've already got the full-time job and now we've got to add this on top of it. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. There's definitely like last year I sort of threw myself head deep back into like outside education as well. And a lot of the education that I booked myself into came with like a social media segment as well. Knowing how to capture a good photo because, you know, when I first started, I would just leave the client sitting in the chair and the cape would be dirty and disgusting. And I'd be like, now I look back, I'm like, why did I do that? And so like learning how to pose your clients, the angles, you know, making sure you do have beautiful lighting and that color might have looked good in person, but then it might not translate very well to camera. And then like learning how to caption and hashtag and things like that as well. Like a lot of education you book yourself into will have that social media segment, which last year I found super, super powerful and so helpful for my business now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip. And I think a lot of educators know now that that is something that they have to include in their education because there is so much weight and importance on that.
Definitely.
So going back to your business, obviously you've grown quite rapidly over, it's not a short space of time, but in the business world, it is quite a short space of time. Your business is really thriving and doing really well. This is something I really want to talk about for the listeners to hear as well, because I think there is this stigma at the moment that we are in this global financial crisis and people don't want to spend money and everything. But I think you're living proof that that is actually not always the case. Can you touch on this a little bit and kind of share how you've gotten to this point where you have? Because I think it's really inspiring.
Yeah. I think it kind of comes down to like educating your clients as well, you know, that we've had a few people being like, oh, you know, I'm not going to be able to afford to get my hair done as much. And then I was like, well, why don't we break it down like this? You know, and, you know, so say come in at the start of the year and have your full head of foils done. Then why don't you just come in for 2 toners and trims, you know, and space them out 8 weeks. So, you know, you have your full head of foils. 8 weeks later, come in for a toner, treatment, and a cut. Another 8 weeks later, toner, treatment, and a cut. And then maybe do a half a head. So then you're breaking down that cost for the client. They're still coming in and supporting you, but they're not spending as much money. I think that's like how I've like trained my clients over the years so that they're always continuing to come back, but they're not having that full service done and it's nicer on them as well. Obviously, like things like, you know, you pay later, like buy now, pay later, after pays and stuff like that are always going to help clients as well. But yeah, I think just coming down to educating your clients, because if you take that client who usually would have a full head of foils every 8 weeks, but that's, you know, that's a big sum of money. And then they're not going to want to come back. And then they might come back, say like 6, 7, 8 months later, but their regrowth is massive. And then you're like, well, now I have to charge you even more. It's not just going to be that full head of foil price. It's going to be full head of foils plus extra color and blah, 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 because I have to use more product. And the start of this year, I sat down with my team and we did a breakdown of our pricing system a little bit. And, you know, so someone who has a full head of foils, but say they've got that extra regrowth, and we'll just explain to them, like, you know, because you've waited so long, we actually have to use more color now, more product, which is going to cost you more money. So kind of just, yeah, train your clients to then spend smaller amounts scattered out and then have a bigger service, you know, maybe once or twice, 3 times a year at the beginning, middle, and end before Christmas, because Christmas time, that's when you want to look great. You've got all your family photos, you've got New Year's Eve parties and everything like that. So do like your big services beginning, middle, end, and then scatter some little appointments throughout the year for you. And yeah, that's just how I've done it from the get-go. And because I was on my own as well, and I'm like, I don't want to be foiling your hair every 8 weeks. I want to do other things in the meantime as well. So yeah, just learning your clients and what their needs are and things like that. And at the end of the day, like if they're really struggling for money, be like, that's okay, no worries. But you know, then just be like, oh, but you would like to keep your following on. It's like, oh yeah, I'll definitely need my hair done for then, because then they might have an event on. So yeah, just training my clients. We also have a little thing for the retail side as well, because I think getting, spending $300-400 on a beautiful hair color, but then going and buying your $5 shampoo, it's not going to cut it. It's really, really not. So educating your clients on what the good products you use and how much better that's going to be for their hair. Offer them a little discount, say like buy a shampoo, conditioner and a treatment or a leave-in styling product and then get 10% off. That's not a lot for a business to lose 10% off of a product. But if it means your client's going to have the tools to maintain their beautiful hair at home, then that's really good. And with that as well, looping kind of back to our sustainable salon, because we offer the recycling program, I tell my clients, bring back your old bottles when you finish with them, and then you get 10% off your next ones as well, and we put them in our recycling. So they're not going into landfill. You then get a discount. So it just makes them remember, like, and they'll come back sometimes with like 4 or 5 bottles and they're like, yeah, that's 10% per bottle. And they love that. And as a business owner, losing 10% off of a retail is not going to break your bank account. So I think, yeah, just give your clients a little bit of something so that they keep coming back.
I really love that. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's kind of like taking care of the people who are taking care of you, and just making sure that everyone's looked after, they feel valued. Like that goes such a long way with just really creating a really strong, loyal clientele.
Yeah, I think having your clients trust you and trust your knowledge as well is super powerful. I've worked in a salon which was like predominantly retail as well. I think we can all guess what that is, but I won't name names. And it was like drilled into us about retail. And I was really good at selling retail. I actually quite enjoyed it from time to time, but I'm like, if my client can't afford it, they can't afford it. And I'm like, yes, but please don't use anything from the shampoo, like from the supermarket, And then just letting them know, like, oh, we do have Afterpay or something like that. So yeah, just looking after your clients so they look after you and they keep coming back. There'd be nothing worse than, not seeing that client ever again because they're like, oh, I can't afford to get my hair done there. And this comes from like a salon I worked at as well. We used to quote before we started every service as well, which, look, some days we're really onto it still. Some days we get really busy, but then just breaking down that price for the clients, like this is how much your foils are going to cost. This is this, this is this, this is this. And then we actually do a deposit system as well. So a week before the client's appointment, they will pay a 50% deposit. Some people pay it like as soon as they make their appointment, and then they're coming in like 6 weeks later and they've only got half of it to pay. And they're like, oh, that's like a half price haircut. And they love that. So I think for me as a business owner, to secure that financial from them, having a deposit system in place is amazing. And I think more salons really need to be doing it, because having people cancel a no-show, it really impacts a small business massively.
I could not agree with that more. I feel like in this like day and age, with the way things are, a deposit system should be like a non-negotiable, because at the end of the day, I think people will take it much more seriously than if they haven't paid a deposit and they don't care if they're cancelling, because it doesn't affect them. But it really is so detrimental to our business. You have a couple of those a week, and that's a couple of $100. That could be your power bill or your rent or whatever. It makes such a big difference. So I love that you guys do that. I think that's really important.
We get a few people like that get a bit like funny about paying deposits, and they're like, but why? And I'm like, if you want to book a doctor's appointment this day, you have to put your credit card in. Most restaurants will take a deposit as well in your credit card. Even I think even like you're getting your car serviced, things like that, because that's time that somebody has set aside for you to do a service on you, or to serve you at a restaurant, or your doctor. If you don't show up, that could have been someone else's spot. And so yeah, the deposit system really, really helps people stay accountable, that like, oh, if I don't turn up, I'm going to lose this $150. And for somebody, maybe $150 isn't that much, but for say somebody else, like $150, that's going to put food on their table or pay a bill for them, So being like mindful that yes, we are in a financial crisis, but then also be mindful that yes, getting your hair done is a luxury. It's not a necessity. But yeah, just be, looking after your clients, and the deposits and everything like that, I think will help everybody.
I really like that. And, you know, there's a quote that I always think of, like regarding the people who don't really necessarily like the idea of having to pay a deposit, is that quote that's like, generally the people that have a problem with your boundaries are the people who intend on crossing them. And I feel like that's so often the case with the deposit thing. Like the people who don't want to pay it are because they don't want to actually have to commit to it in that financial way. So
Yeah.
and something else that you said earlier that I wanted to come back to as well, which I really loved, is talking about doing the quote before the service. I actually, even firsthand, like I agree with you completely, and that was something I always did within my salon. But I remember a couple of months ago, I went did a Japanese head spa, which was amazing. It was a beautiful experience. But the whole way through, they're like, "Do you want this treatment? Do you want this like microdermabrasion thing for your scalp? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? Do you want that?" And you're sort of the whole time you're just edging towards the end of the appointment and you're like, I don't know how much I've spent. I don't know what the total's going to get to. And it kind of takes away from the experience because you have this like anxiety about what the total amount's going to come to. But I love if you do it at the start. I think it just like makes it a much more relaxed feeling for the client the whole way through.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you'll quote before you start and then you're like, so this is how much it would have cost. But then because you've already paid your deposit, it's only blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, that's cheaper than what it was. And you're like, oh, well, do you need to get some shampoo or conditioner? Or say like someone has booked in for that full head of foils, but they're like, oh, it's actually looking pretty good. Maybe I'll just get like a quarter head. And they're like, okay. So then you've already got like money there kind of in. So we have like every client has a profile and then they have a wallet. And in that wallet will be their deposit money. And so say like if their service doesn't come to the full amount, be like, oh, well, why don't you grab some shampoo and conditioner? There's still money being spent because that money just sits there in limbo until they've had their service done. And so for us, it's really helpful when you have that, the system that does all your text message confirmations and everything like that, pays your deposit, and then they know that, oh yeah, I've already paid, blah, I'm only going to have to pay this on the day. So I can afford to get some shampoo and conditioner. So yeah. And yeah, like you said, the people who won't pay the deposits are generally the people who don't turn up and don't respect you.
Yeah, the people that don't want to commit.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
I really love that, what you just saying there. And yeah, it's actually just like a very easy way to upsell. If you've kind of got that deposit there, you've taken some of that like financial stress away. It does give you that freedom and flexibility to be like, hey, this came a little bit cheaper today, or you've already paid that. So since it's not going to be as much today, you can afford to get these other things. I think that's a really smart way of going about it.
Yeah. And yeah, that just kind of comes back to being transparent with your clients, building that relationship with them. A couple of weeks ago, there was a lady who came to the counter and she showed a photo of a product on her phone and she showed one of my team members and we're like, sorry, we don't stock that. And she's like, well, do you have something similar? And my team member was like, oh, actually, we do have something quite similar. She did a quick little Google search, seen what it did, what it was about, and then found something that we had. And then she spent that time, she spent about 5-7 minutes explaining like what, the similarities of the product. And the client was like, oh, it's a bit more than what I normally pay. But she's like, you know what? You were really informative and you knew what I needed and you knew really well about the product. I'm going to buy that from you today. So we've now like gained a client just for retail because of our knowledge and being respectful and taking the time to be like, oh, well, we don't have that, but we've got this instead. So yeah, it's just really helpful with things like that as well.
I love that. I think knowledge is power, but knowledge also helps people build trust. Like you said earlier, like if they feel like they can respect your professional opinion, it's going to make them so much more likely to come back and visit you.
Yeah. And like I've had like a couple of incidents as well where your clients have like booked in for a massive service and I'll be like, you don't actually really need that. And they're like, really? And I'm like, no, we can just do this instead. And then they love that as well because they're like, that's nicer on their bank account, but then they trust your professionalism as well and being like, oh, well, she's not just trying to get money out of me. And I think like a little bit of stigmatism is like, oh, business owners, we're flowing in cash and everything like that. No, we're really not. It's like we're just like every other, unless you have like multiple stylists working and things like that. But being I still look at myself as being a small business owner, and unfortunately, it's the small business owners that get screwed over in a lot of cases.
It really is, isn't it? The ones who've got the great businesses and are really thriving, they're like in a whole different area. And like the sole traders, they're in a whole different area. It's the ones who are kind of that middleman that are trying to get to that next level that are really having the toughest time at the moment.
Yeah. Touching on like the financial crisis thing as well, I was actually listening to like a podcast about this a few weeks ago, and they had brought on like an older gentleman, and he was like, I don't believe there's a financial crisis. And he's like, do you want to elaborate on that? And he went into detail, and he's like, I got paid a lot less back in, the 1960s, but I still managed to buy a house. But he's like, we didn't have fancy cars, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have name brand stuff. And I think that sort of comes down to a little bit of social media as well, is that we see these influencers who are gifted amazing things, and we want that because we're like, oh, if they've got it, we want it. And we can't afford it a lot of the time as well. So I think it's just like living within your means, living within your budget. Yes, there is a financial crisis, but I don't think people are as smart with their money as we can be as well.
I completely agree with that. And I think on the flip side of that as well, coming from like a business point of view, you don't necessarily have to start off with the most incredible salon with all the bells and whistles. Like that's something we see on social media that we think we have to have too, but actually being humble and starting from humble beginnings and making your way to that point as you can afford it over time is a much better way to thrive, which I'm sure you completely relate to that.
When I first opened, being the pandemic as well, like I had like how much I could spend on my salon setup. And then I'd gone through and I'd selected like my basins, my chairs, and my mirrors and every little detail. And then when it came to like, I went to my rep and I was like, right, this is the basin I want. He's like, it's out of stock. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, it's out of stock. At this stage, shipment isn't until September. And I'm like, I'm opening in August. And I was preparing this all in July. And he's like, oh, let me see what I can do for you. And unfortunately, the only basin that was available was like double the price of the one that I originally wanted. So I did want two basins, but because the one basin that was available was double in price, I only had one basin, and then the chairs were more expensive as well. So I only had one basin and two chairs when I started, which at the time it was just me. So that was fine. And we had to be 1.5 meter social distancing anyway. So it was fine. But then as time went on and I got busy and I took on my next team member, I had to get another chair, and we still had three chairs but one basin, and I was like, this is not working. And then it just kind of I had to keep putting money aside to afford that next basin because all while I'm making this money from clients, but I'm having to pay all my overheads and my team member, that now I'm like, I really need that basin, but I just wasn't getting there. And I eventually got there, and it was like a shining beacon of hope getting that second basin. But like, yeah, it was really, really tricky. And my salon, like I look at it when I first started, I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful space. But I was like, oh, that's really boring because it was so empty because the things that I wanted were then out of my budget. So it wasn't aesthetically pleasing. And then eventually when I grew again, I had that money there to do it. So it was great. Where I went to now, I was actually super lucky because the previous hairdresser that was in that space had just left everything. So I went from originally starting up one basin, two chairs, to 8 chairs, 2 basins. I now have 10 chairs and 4 basins. And I'm like, who is she? Who is she?
I love that so much, but I think that's such a beautiful representation of the true journey. It doesn't just start as that. You have to work to get to that point.
Yeah, and because like I was working from home, but I wasn't doing a lot. I was, maybe 1 or 2 clients a day, not every day either. So I started literally from nothing. And when I got into the space, I think on the 27th of July, and my first opening day was the 10th of August. So that's not a lot of time. And hubby and I were there and he was working full time as well. And it was very, very hard because he'd go from working his full-time job to coming to the salon. After hours, we would be there till like 9, 10 o'clock at night trying to fit mirrors to walls, which was just horribly intense. And the amount of like arguments we had, because I'm like, oh yeah, you just hang you put a nail up and you hang it and it's done. Where he's like, no, he was leveling it all out and he's very precise. I love that, but I'm like, just get it done. Like, I want to go home. And our poor kids were sitting there with blankets on the floor watching an iPad. It was just a really, really tough time. But I was like, if we can do this, we can do anything. And we then proved that again when we expanded, like 2 years later, we took on the bigger space. Once again, I was pregnant at the time as well when we were doing those renovations too. And so I'm trying to like paint walls and like do all these other things. Our two other kids were, once again, sitting in the corner with some takeaway, eating food with an iPad and blankets and not getting home until like 11 o'clock and then going to school the next day. Like, we hustled as a family for a very long time. It was intense. And I think it was my second year in business. Just as I finished my first year and I was entering my second year, and my husband was like, well, now that the salon's like established and it's not going anywhere, do you think I could cut back at work and I could do some study? And I was like, sure, we've got this. And we were getting married as well that year. Like, it was just all happening. But we've always made it work, like with me and him. Like he actually didn't end up cutting back at work. He still was working full time. He would then come home and lock himself in a room and jump on a Zoom meeting and do a class online like 2-3 times a week while I'm trying to scream at kids at the other end of the house to eat their bloody dinner. But yeah, like my husband and I, like we have not had it easy, like trying to start it up, like bringing kids into the world, growing a business, him studying, him getting like us getting married. And then why not just throw a baby in there and do a salon renovation at the same time? Like it was just like, and like clients like, are you insane? And I'm like, oh, maybe a little bit. Yeah. Like, I don't like think about things in the moment. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. That's future me's problem. But we've always just worked together as a team, he and I, and made it work. However, we do have a big support behind the scenes as well. So it's really helpful. And then same again, like with my team, just jumping in, I think I had like 2 weeks off after I had my son, but I was back 5 days after he was born on the floor as well. Wow. So like, I think if you want, like, moral of that big word vomit is that if you want something, you'll just make it happen. Like you will just throw yourself and all of you at something. If you want something to happen so badly, you will just do it. Like, just do it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I genuinely believe that will resonate with so many people, because I think obviously maybe not necessarily to that degree, but I think everyone who goes into business, they have this moment when they're trying to make it all happen, where they're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, have I taken on too much here? Because this seems like a little unachievable. But then they always end up pushing through, and you do look back and you're like, wow, that was crazy, but look how everything worked out. Like, I'm so glad I pushed through and got to this point, because it was worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's been a journey, but now I feel like we've got through the hard bits now, and like we're in this August will be our 5th year in business, and I think like it's only going to get better from here now. Fingers crossed I can find some more staff. And I was actually chatting to one of the reps recently about like finding another senior stylist, is that there aren't any around, because during COVID, no one was doing an apprenticeship. So we're like, we're 5 years into business now. So where are all these seniors, all these newly qualified? They don't exist, because no one was doing an apprenticeship. Or like yourself and I, who worked in salons previously to COVID, we're burnt out. We're leaving the industry, apart from me, because I'm just insane apparently. But like, or they've gone off and done their own thing, and they're being like a home salon, or then they've left the industry. So there's a big gap of hairdressers that's missing. And I think for a while there wasn't much incentive to do an apprenticeship either. Like when you and I started, that was really lovely. But they are bringing that back in as well. So anybody who is wanting to get into the hair industry and find a good salon, like, don't just jump to the first one that you go to, because it might not be the right fit. And I learned from that, and I'm not sure if you did either, but like the first place you go is not going to be the salon for you. And it is hard to then leave and start somewhere else as well. Like it was easier back when I did it. I moved twice, but now it's not as easy. Like the amount of documentation that I've had to sign for other people that have come from other salons to me is incredible and it's intense. But I think, yeah, if you're looking to get an apprenticeship now, there's more incentives, but just find the right salon that's going to be best for you.
That's really, really great advice. And yeah, I completely back that up too. I think it's so important. Obviously, at the moment, you are looking for staff, and I know that so many people are struggling with this as well, trying to find good staff, and even just trying to find staff in general is challenging at the moment. Obviously, any Adelaide girlies who are listening, who are listening to what you're saying, and they're like, "Yeah, I vibe with this. I want to find out more about you. I want to find out about an opportunity to work with you." What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I think like at the moment, social media, like I put up a Seek ad and that got me nothing. So I was actually pretty disappointed in that because Seek ads aren't cheap. And all I had were people that don't have the right to work in Australia. So, contact me on socials. We're just Eco Hair Room. I'm sure you can find us, or like an email or a phone call, or come for a drive down to Aldinga and drop your resume and yeah, just I think social media is probably one of the best avenues to contact me on.
Fantastic. And like I said before, I will link all of your socials so people can reach out in any way, whether just to come and see what you're doing or whether they want to come and find out about a job opportunity. Now, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our time together today. I've had such a wonderful time chatting with you. But before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners?
Don't be afraid to be different. Don't it's really, and that comes back to like a little bit of social media again as well, that we do follow other salons and we try and compare ourselves and like, oh, look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing. And I think every time I've gone and seen my accountant as well, she's like, oh, you're doing really well. Like your figures are growing every year, and you just need to find something that makes you different to another salon, whether it be the products you're using. So that comes down to your research, but just find something that makes you unique and your salon unique. And the clients will love that, and being authentic and relatable as well, like doing the silly reels on social media, you might feel like an absolute tool at the time, but it absolutely helps grow your business for sure. It makes you more relatable to the clients that you want to attract as well. So yeah, just be yourself.
I really love that advice. And I want to back that up as well by saying, like, obviously I follow everyone who follows me on Instagram. It's something I'm really trying to build this community. It's something that I think is really important. But everyone posts such beautiful work and such beautiful pictures. And I don't want to knock anyone because everyone's doing such a great job. But I must admit, your posts stand out because they're different to what everyone's doing. And you can't help but be drawn and attracted to that. And I think that is a really important point, to just be yourself and be authentic and genuine and show up as who you are online and have a bit of fun, because it does, when you're seeing hair picture after hair picture after hair picture, to see something a little bit different and see someone having some fun in the salon, it really does have that point of difference and it really does help you to stand out. So I definitely commend you guys for doing that. I think you're doing a really fantastic job at that.
But yeah, make the silly reels, but then also be a little silly in the salon, be professional, but have fun and get your clients to join in on the silliness as well. A lot of the time, my clients will actually cross conversation with each other, and they'll end up going out for coffees or something like that, because they might be going through something and then they've met somebody who's also going through something and then they connect as well. We see so many people and we meet so many people and we get to know so many people that we can refer other businesses, so many of my clients were like, oh, I'm really struggling with XYZ. And I'll be like, oh, I've got a business card. Hold on. Go see my client. She's amazing. You'll love her. And then they'll come back and they'll be like, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm like, you're welcome. We have so much power to share and knowledge to share that I think it's a bit underutilized sometimes.
I really love that. And I think people ask us for advice and they trust us. So to be able to do that is really powerful. And I also really love something you said then. That's one of my favorite things from being in the salon is when your clients connect with one another. I don't know why, but it is the best feeling. You're just look at the gorgeous people I've attracted. This is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great.
Well, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me today and sharing your business experience and advice with the listeners. I am so grateful for everything that you've shared today. I think people are going to really resonate with this and get a lot out of it, especially people who are either going into business or are in business. I think you just hit on so many points that people will really resonate with. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I will link all of your information in the show notes so people can come and find you, chat with you, and maybe even apply for a job with you. That would be really awesome.
That'd be amazing.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Isn't she just amazing? I feel so excited that I get to work with such inspiring women every week, just like Tanika, and share their business story and their advice on current things going on within the industry. I really hope that you guys loved hearing today's episode just as much as I loved creating it. I just think Tanika is such an inspiration, and I hope that you got so much out of today's episode. If you have a story that you'd like to share on the Hair Babes and Business podcast, I would absolutely love to hear from you. The best place to do that is to send me a DM on Instagram so we can have a chat and see what your story is and whether it's a right fit for the podcast. So please don't hesitate to send me a message there. I would absolutely love to hear from you. In the meantime, if you want more content throughout your week, please feel free to join me on Instagram and TikTok. I would absolutely love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to the Hair Babes and Business podcast today. I look very forward to being back in your ears again on Monday. Once again, I just want to thank Tanika so much for her time and coming on the Hair Babes and Business podcast. Like I said earlier in the episode, I will link all of her information in the show notes so you can go and check her out and give her some love as well. Have a great one, guys. Mwah.